Hello, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Becca and today I have my July wrap up. So the month of July was my best reading month so far. I read 11 books in total and I read almost double the pages of my best month of the year previous to this. So it was an excellent reading month. Halfway through the month, I did do a mid-month wrap up. So if you would like to see reviews on any of these books, then you can check that out. I will link it in the cards up above. There will also be reviews there for the first 2 books in the Slam series by Colleen Hoover. So after I wrapped up those 6 books, I did read 5 more, but first we're going to get into the stats, and these will be the stats for the entirety of the month. So in July, I read a total of 4,388 pages, which works out at an average of 141 pages per day. For the star ratings, I had 1 2-star book, 3 3-star books, 2 4-star books and 5 5-star books. For the demographics, I read no children's books, 2 new adult, 6 young adult and 3 adult. And for the formats, I read 8 standard novels and 3 audiobooks. Genre-wise, we had 3 fantasy, 2 romance, 2 contemporary, 2 sci-fi, 1 paranormal and 1 epic fantasy. Okay, so we'll just start off with the first book that I read after I did my mid-month wrap-up, and that is Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. This is an adult virtual reality sci-fi. I gave this 5 stars. It follows Wade Watts, who is a guy who lives in this sort of dystopian society. The world is very run down. It is not a great place to live at all. There is a lot of poverty, but there is this online virtual world that is virtually free for everyone to access called the Oasis, and people kind of escape and actually live their lives there instead of the real world. The creator of this world has died and he has left Easter eggs strewn throughout the virtual reality, and if you can find them and solve the puzzles and clear all the gates, then you will inherit the fortune, control of the Oasis and everything from the creator of the Oasis, James Halliday. I really love this. This is one of my favourites of the year. 100% a 5-star book. I really liked the elements of gaming in here. As a gamer myself, like, I could relate to some things. I really liked the Easter eggs. I loved exploring the different landscapes because obviously in a virtual reality anything is possible, and I loved all the different landscapes and settings that were visited in this book. It was a little bit info dumpy in times at the beginning, but I found when I passed the first like 80 pages that pretty much cleared up, and I was just obsessed with reading this. Like, when I wasn't reading it, I just wanted to read it, and when I was reading it, I couldn't read it fast enough. Like, I kept skipping ahead and had to force myself to slow down. I would highly recommend this if you're looking for a virtual reality sci-fi. It was absolutely phenomenal. It is being turned into a series, and I'm not sure how I feel about that, because while I really want more from this world, I think that it was perfect as a standalone, so I'm a little nervous about that as well. I did also watch the movie for this, and the movie is very different from the book, so you can enjoy both. I personally preferred the book, and that is because the movie kind of loses the gamer aspects and all like the grinding for levels and like cool things like that gamers relate to, and made it more of an action movie. And as I discussed in my Butchuthon wrap up, I don't like action movies. I then read Queen of Shadows by Sarah J Maas. This is a young adult fantasy, and this is the 4th book in the Throne of Glass series. This is where the series really picks up for me. I can't really tell you what it's about. Like, you all know the series is about an assassin, but what I can say about this book in particular is it's where it becomes really high stakes. The characters are in a lot more trouble. Their different paths are like all verging off in opposite directions, and they all have their own struggles and problems and things to deal with, but then they're also converging together. I enjoyed seeing some of the point of views merge and characters who previously had not met interacting for the first time. I love with Sarah J Maas books, especially in the Throne of Glass series, because it is so big you see it more, how all little things that you think are irrelevant all come together. Yeah, I don't really have much to say about this. I did do a book diary on it, so if you have read this and you want like my spoilery thoughts, then you can check that out. But I gave this 5 stars, as I give all Sarah J Maas books pretty much, with the exception of a few. And I'm really excited to get to Empire of Storms in August, because that is my favourite book of the series so far. Then I DNF'd a book, and that was Call Me By Your Name by Andre Aciman. I read 22 pages of this and I just didn't want to read it. This is an adult contemporary LGBT romance that has been adapted into a movie. I wanted to read the book because I wanted to watch the movie. However, the writing style is just not for me at all. It's very reminiscent of Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov, which I attribute the writing style of this to the time that it was written in, which I believe was the 60s. I can't really describe what the writing style is like. It's just really, it was really hard to follow. I didn't know what was going on. It felt like it was just pages and pages and pages of rambling about the same thing, and I didn't care. So I did DNF this. I'm sad that I'll never know what the peach scene is unless I watch the movie, which is still possible. But yeah, I have no interest in this. I thought that I would have little interest in it going into it, but then when the writing style completely turned me off, I was like, no, I'm not going to bother, especially because I was reading this not long before Booktubeathon started, and the last thing I needed before Booktubeathon was to be put in a slump by this book. The next book that I read was an audiobook, and that was Binti by Needy Okorafor. I've probably butchered that, I'm so sorry. But this is an adult sci-fi novella which follows a young girl from Earth who is part of, it makes me believe it's like some sort of African culture on Earth, and she gets on a spaceship to go to this esteemed university in space. Things happen along the way, and that is the plot of the book. I don't really want to say anything because it's so short. It's like 97 pages. For the page count, I expected it to have a lot more than it did. I read this essentially because everyone was like, Binti is amazing, read Binti, Binti's so good. So I gave it a try. I gave it 2 stars. I didn't like it. Like I said, for the amount of pages, you've got to do a lot in such a short amount of pages to make a really impactful book. And I got to a point like 40% in where essentially Binti encounters these people that she shouldn't be able to understand, but she does. And they're asking her how they can understand her, and she's like, leave me alone. And they're like, yeah, but how do you understand us? And she says, leave me alone. And it just goes on and on and on. And it's like, this is a very short book. Like, you don't have page space to waste on this kind of stuff. But I have since come to the conclusion that my problem with Binti is the same as my problem with Every Heart a Doorway, and that is that it's just too short. I really like series. The longer the series, the better. The bigger the page count, the more likely I am to enjoy it. And Binti and Every Heart a Doorway, and similarly short novella type books, just don't do well with me. I get to the end and I wonder why. Like, what was the point? Obviously, you can write a good book in that amount of pages, but it just doesn't give the amount of depth and the amount of detail and intricacy that I really enjoy. So sadly, Binti was not for me. I was considering carrying on with the series, but the more time goes on, the more I don't care, and I'm just not really interested. So I'm probably not going to do that. And then the last 2 books I read in the month, I did read for Booktubeathon. I've done a whole wrap up for it for the people that didn't want to watch my Booktubeathon vlogs or didn't take part in Booktubeathon but still wanted to know what I thought about the books I read. So I'll link that up here for you to check that out. So here I'm not going to go into detail. I'm just going to let you know what they were and my star ratings, etc. But the first one was Elantris by Brandon Sanderson. I gave this one 5 stars. It's an adult epic fantasy. Really loved it. And the last book I read in July was Knocked Up by My Nunga Nungas by Louise Renison. Again, 5 stars. Listen to the audiobook of this. It's a young adult contemporary that follows a 14-year-old girl's diary. And I would highly recommend the audiobooks if you are wanting to reread these. I probably wouldn't recommend them for people who are reading them for the first time. But if you're rereading like me, the audiobook format is a really good way to go. Okay, so that's everything I read in the month of July. I hope you've liked this video. Please let me know if you've read any of these books, what you've read in July. Did you take part in any readathons? Just generally fill me in on your reading life in the comments. Please don't forget to like this video if you liked it and subscribe if you want to. If you head into the description box below, you'll find a link to my Goodreads, Instagram and Twitter if you'd like to follow me on any of those, as well as a link to my Bookish body butter and candle website, the Instagram for that, and a 10% off discount code. But that's it from me today. Bye!
Oh, you bite your friend like chocolate. You say you will go where nobody knows, with guns hidden under our petticoats. We're never gonna quit it, no, we're never gonna quit it, no.